President Cyril Ramaphosa expected to address the nation following his consultations with representatives of political parties and the religious sector on the COVID-19 pandemic. And a little bit later, we'll be speaking to our political editor, Mzwandile Mbeje, but we're also looking at this economically. And here are some of the things that could change. So right now, under current lockdown level 3, of course, we have the curfew from 10 o'clock at night until 4 o'clock in the morning. That may be eased. Alcohol restrictions, currently you can only buy liquor between the hours of 10 o'clock to 6 o'clock at night. And then, of course, there are some regulations around bars and restaurants, so looking for some relaxation there. And then the size of gatherings will be very closely watched because of the November the 1st polls. Right now, gatherings limited to 50 people indoors and 100 outdoors. We're joined by political economist Dr Lumkile Mondi. And Doctor, thank you for being with us. So what easings make economic sense right now in your mind?
Well, we expect the president to bring us down to level 2, basically allowing the liquor industry as well as the broader restaurant and food industry to operate much more openly and freely, as well as gatherings, of course, because when you do that, you need to allow also bigger numbers. So we think that the extent of the distribution of the vaccine and the decline in the number of affected people is really encouraging, but we need to see more people coming to vaccinating sites so that we can move much speedily to level 1 and open up the economy and allow tourism also to open up. So it's still a long way to go for us to have a complete open economy which can bring back the jobs that we've lost in the past year.
Yeah, we often think of vaccines in terms of health only, but this is an economic issue.
Absolutely. I mean, we've seen what's happening in Europe and the rest of the world, that when you allow people to go or to vaccinate more numbers, it allows us then to go back to our normal lives, of course, within the restrictions of sticking to sanitizing as well as wearing a mask. However, it allows planning as well, because at this juncture, I think many small, medium enterprises and even bigger firms find it very difficult to plan long-term and invest, as you've seen in the past GDP figures of the second quarter. That finance remain constrained because I think not many firms are going to borrow to invest, as well as construction remains quite constrained, declining about 1.4%. So all these issues indicate to us that the faster we vaccinate, the more businesses then are able to plan for the medium and long term and to deploy capital and go and borrow from the financial sector and create those jobs. That's so important. But more important also, as we expand our economy, it means that government will receive more money as well through the taxation that will come from personal income tax, but also from firms as they recover and rebound in an open and transparent economy.
Yeah. For tourism, I mean, it depends what happens with the airlines, what happens with sort of global waves, what happens in terms of movement across borders. Will it make much of a difference? The speculation is that the curfew will change from 10 p.m. at night to 11 p.m. Alcohol sales will open up. I guess it does make a difference if you want to go out to a restaurant at night. It becomes more of a pull.
Absolutely. I mean, with this weather that we're having in Gauteng, very warm, beautiful outside at the moment, so people will want to spend more time at the restaurant and spend more. So spending is very good for the economy, as we all know, and the tips that comes with it for the staff that's employed there. And in fact, as those numbers of people going to restaurants increase, also many restaurants start employing more people as well. So really, an extra hour adds more to the economy, and I hope and hopefully that those that come in also do encourage others to vaccinate, because really, if we can jump up or bump up our numbers around vaccination, the quicker it will be for us to really go back to some form of reality as we're seeing in Europe and America. And that, in fact, is the biggest boost towards confidence, towards a positive investment climate, but more importantly also a signal across the world that they should take us out of orange or red group and allow South Africans and the rest of the world to travel outside for South Africans, but for foreigners to travel back in our country, because we've got such a beautiful country to show to the world.
Yeah, so even investors looking at the vaccination rate, and I mean, we're picking up incredibly, but still well below the world average. Doctor, how would you describe the state of our economy going into this address tonight? You mentioned some of the indicators. Some of them have been dire, looking at manufacturing figures coming out this week, although, of course, that was overlapping the looting in Gauteng and KwaZulu-Natal. But other indicators looking pretty good. Some saying the recovery on track in certain areas. Just tell us what you've been watching.
So, I mean, we're very encouraged for all reasons that you all know, that as a mining country, that the commodity cycle is on our side. What we'd like to see happening is really Transnet freight particularly, and the mining sector working together to remove any of the obstacles that are constraining some of the exports, particularly on the coal line, as Exaro reported recently, around some of the challenges with Transnet Freight Rail. We hope that the partnership and the investment driven by private sector assisting Transnet will go a long way for us to exploit this boom, because we missed the other boom between 2003 and 2007 because of the stranglehold of Transnet and Transnet not allowing private sector to come in. So that for me is a big opportunity. Of course, we know that there's a link between mining and manufacturing. In the past quarter, the manufacturing shrunk by about under 1%, about 0.8%. But I think going forward, if you allow private sector and Transnet to work together, we'll see a very positive contribution of manufacturing around that area, which will also be good for construction. If, for example, we add more construction along the railway lines to exploit more of the Northern Cape resources and some of the resources that we have in the greater Gauteng area going through the ports of Richards Bay. But I think what is still very important for us is labor absorption. We still have a huge challenge around labor absorption, given our numbers of unemployment, which are closer to about 45% on the expanded definition. So that is where we like to see services. And services can only open up completely when we get those numbers of people being vaccinated going up. Of course, the infection rate also going down rapidly. That, in fact, is a call that we need to make South Africans that please go to the vaccination side, get vaccinated so that we can open up, we can bring back the jobs. The idea that, you know, people are going to be fine anyway if they're not vaccinated is really putting a very huge burden on the economy, and also putting pressure on the government, because they cannot be responsible and open up, given the fact that if there's a spike again in infections, we may not have enough beds. So it's one of those challenges that we need more South Africans really going forward and getting vaccinated. Then we can drive these jobs, because at 45% as a country, we're not unsustainable in the long term, and it's making investment very difficult, because many investors are worried that without the opening up and with unemployment at 45%, we're likely to remain an unstable country politically, but particularly with the events that we saw in KZN over 6 weeks ago.
All right, so another reason to get vaccinated, to create jobs. Thank you very much for your time tonight. That was Dr Lumkile Mondi, economist and senior lecturer at the School of Economics and Business Science at Wits University.